out by removing the cover over the battery. Just flip it up like that. Disconnect the negative terminal. Use a 10mm socket. Loosen it up. And just move this away so it doesn't arc out. Take these screws out. Grab the panel and just slide it off. Now there's no drain on the radiator to drain the coolant out, so we can pop off the coolant hose right here. There's a little clip right here. Just make sure the coolant is cold. Make sure you can grab this and there's no pressure in there. If there was, just take off the cap, take off the coolant cap, and let it cool if it's hot. If you need to, disconnect this connector right here. Just push down on the tab and slide it off. If you have to, you can get a pick underneath there. It's not that easy to squeeze that. So that's off, out of the way. Make sure you have a drain bucket underneath here. And just wiggle this off a little bit. Just very carefully. Oh, just pull that off. It surprised me a little bit. Take this cover off just to get it out of the way. Use a T20 socket. Remove the screws on this. There should be 2 on there. On the air intake, and then slide it off. And most likely you have a clamp here, a spring clamp. But if you have a worm clamp like this, just loosen it up with a straight blade screwdriver. Otherwise, use some hose clamp pliers. And slide that off. And you can just grab this underneath. And it's extremely hard to pry these up sometimes. Just pry it up like that and slide it off. Take this piece out of your way. There's 2 screws on the side. You can use a T20 socket. Take those screws out. And slide it right out. Then up top there's 2 screws in the radiator fan shroud. Use a T30 socket. Take those 2 screws out. The other one's over here. Disconnect this connector right here. There is a little lock tab. Just use a pick or a screwdriver to unlatch that. And you can push this down, push down that connector and slide it out. And just use a trim tool underneath this retainer. Just pop that out. Just like that. And there's 2 screws. There's a screw right here. Use the same T30 from up top. And a screw on this side as well. And just grab the fan. And carefully slide it down. Take these 2 screws out. Use a Phillips head screwdriver. There's 2 screws under here. Take these 2 out. Those are Phillips head as well. Use a straight blade screwdriver and just slide these clips off while you lift the grill. There's a clip right there as well. That should just slide up like that. Then take these 2 screws out. Use a T30 socket. Underneath, remove all these screws. Use a T20 socket. In the inner fender well, you want to take the screws out right there. Use the same T20 socket. And there should be one more right there, but it's missing in this vehicle. And you can remove the screw right here. Same T20 socket. Same on the other side. And just grab the bumper and just slide it forward. Make sure to disconnect the lights on the inside. There's a little wire right here. Try to pop that off. A little clip. Take that clip off. And pull the bulb out. Same with the other side. There you go. Use the T25 socket. Take this screw out. This one up top. And then there's another one below. And then you can pull the headlight assembly forward. You just kind of got to twist it a little bit and then slide that off. Then we can disconnect the connector. Connector is kind of hard to see. It's right there. Just push down on the tab on the connector and then slide it out. Do the same on the other side. Now take these off. Use a T25. Take the screw out of here and then also out of here. Take these two out. Use a T30 socket. On here and down here, there's two T30 screws you gotta take out. Take those out on both sides, so 4 altogether. And don't forget the T30 under here, and same on the other side. Now on each side you have 4 bolts. You want to take those out. You can mark these and put this in the same location as you took it off, but this is pretty rusty. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to see where the bolts go. Use a 16mm socket. Take those off. Now when I go to take this last one out, make sure you support the bumper. Take that out and grab the bumper and just slide it forward. Now there's 2 screws on the side right here. Use a T30. Take those out. Now just so this doesn't get caught on anything, I'm going to disconnect the connector right here. It's for the ambient air temp sensor. Just push down on the connector and slide it out. A screwdriver. And slide it out. And remove the wires from the clips. There's a connector right here. Disconnect that connector right there. And this one also. This is a airbag sensor, so be careful. You can use a pick. Slide the lock down. And slide the connector off. Do the same on the other side. Before I go any further, I want to disconnect the hose. There's a couple clips, just like the lower hose, or one clip, and you just slide it down with a pick. And then grab and just rock it back and forth. And just slide that off and out of the way. Now this whole radiator can come forward a little. And we can disconnect these bolts up top and use a T30 socket. Remove these two bolts. And again, if you want to mark this, but there's already a mark where it was. Just going to help everything line up better when it goes together. Just be careful. Let's slide this out. And just slide the radiator and the condenser forward. And take this out of the way a little bit and just lay it down like that. Now the radiator is still attached to the condenser. You need to take these screws out. These two happen to be T25s on this vehicle, and this one's a T30. So between a T30 and a T25, take those screws out. Just be careful of the condenser. You don't want it to break while you're working on it. And when you disconnect all these, the radiator is going to fall. So try to support it the best you can. There we go. And grab the radiator and slide it up. Before we put the radiator in, we want to install a couple new O-rings. So just take a pick, get in here, just try to get the old one out. Try not to rip it just in case. There you go, pull that out. I got the new one right here. And just slide it in like that. And that's good. Do the same on this one. And there we go. On the old radiator, take these off and transfer them over to the new radiator. Just like that. Now take the radiator, just get it lined up with the condenser. This might be a little bit of a balancing act. Just be careful not to damage either one. Get the bolts started, or the screws started. Now you can tighten up all the screws for the radiator. Just snug those up. Now we're going to hold this up. Just try to get the bracket lined up underneath. That's pretty good. Now if you wanted to, you could put the coolant fans in now. It would be a little bit easier to get this all set while this is loose like this. But you can always do it later as well. Now get these screws lined back up. And make sure you put this in the same position it was when it came apart. So if you made your marks, or if you can see the marks of the old screws, make sure that's lined up. And snug these down. Now put these two screws in. Those hold the radiator and the condenser in. And if those bolts don't line up or the holes don't line up, it's probably not pulled forward or the feet aren't in the right position. Now we can put these wires back in the retainers where they were. And reconnect the connector. Just line that up. Lock it down. And line this bumper up. And get some of these bolts started. And with those lined up, snug those down. Make sure it's where it was when you took it off. I'm going to snug the other side first and then tighten them all down. good. And plug this connector in. And then push the lock back up. Do the same on the other side, plus this connector over here. There you go. Now we can get all these bolts started. We'll get them all lined up first, and then we'll tighten them down. And get all these lined up as well. Under here. Now try to get these lined up where they were when you took them off, and tighten them down. Same with these. Put these brackets on and get these screws started first. And tighten them down. Now take the headlights, line the connectors up, lock it in, and get the bolts started. And tighten these all down. Now take the bumper cover, get it lined up. You can put those marker bulbs in on the side. And where this clip goes, right there. That's good. Now get this lined up on both sides. It slides right in place. And we can put these screws back and tighten them down. Now take the grill and line it up. It's gonna kind of slide down a little bit. And install the screws. These two screws up top. Now reinstall these screws on the side. Now put all the screws in on the side. Snug them up. And underneath, get all these screws started and torqued down, or tightened down. Now take the fan shroud and just slide it behind. Try to slide it behind the AC hoses, trying not to scratch the radiator. There we go. And get the bolts started. And before you tighten those lower bolts, get the bolts in up top as well. Once those are in, then you can start tightening them. Snug those down. It goes on this way. There's a little tab right there. So if you want to, you can flip this around. Plug it in that way, push down on the lock, and slide this back in. Now we want to slide the clip back down on this, and you should lubricate that O-ring. They do have special lube for O-rings, or you can use a little bit of coolant or even some soapy water. Line that up. And just lock it in place. You can connect the connector if you disconnected it. And slide this back in, put that clip back in. Slide the shield in position. Put the bolts in and tighten them down. Now again, you can use some soapy water or a little bit of coolant just to lubricate the seal. And slide that in position, put the lock back in. And lock it down. That's good. I'm going to slide this piece right back in position. And get the bolts in. Tighten it down. Now take the engine cover, get it to line up, line the hoses up. And then push it down and attach that clamp. Just tighten down the clamp, or if it's a spring clamp, just make sure it's in the right position. And install the screws that go right here and on the other side, and tighten them down. Now connect the battery. And just snug it down, make sure it's not loose. And put the cover on. Now you want to top off the coolant. You can check your owner's manual for the appropriate coolant. You should use Volkswagen approved coolant. At this point, you can start the vehicle, let the vehicle run for about 10 minutes, monitoring the level of the coolant and also the temperature of the engine. Make sure it's not overheating. After about the 10 minutes, shut the vehicle down, let it cool, and then check your level and make adjustments.